From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's.
Now here's Warchant.com's
He is Corey. We're coming to you from the Midtown offices, Tallahassee, Florida. Still searching, hoping for a suitable gas station for Corey Clark.
Haven't found it yet.
A lot of people were wanting to join you on your crusade here, Corey. We'll see if we can get a solution for you guys. Hopefully
I don't want to get on I'm not going to get on the pedestal again, but Tallahassee deserves one. It deserves a well-lit, clean gas station. It is 2019, people. It's not 1986 anymore. It's almost 2020. We're a couple of weeks away from 2020. Tallahassee still has gas stations that belong in the late 1970s. Just get it together, man. And I feel like there's got to be people listening to this that we can pull our money with.
I was about to say, this sounds like a business opportunity, buddy.
There's got to be a reason that like Wawa and QT aren't here, though, right? We got to get a lobbyist. Mm-hmm. Then go to the fuel commission? Is there one of those? Figure out how we get this thing work. Grease the wheels.
Use the promo code SAVE50FSU. Gets you 50% off an annual membership to Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source for our first-time new subscribers. Lots of recruiting stuff going down, so be sure to check everything out again over on Warchant.com. Not even going to tell you about how much I like Zaxby's, because what is on my countertop over there, Corey, over yonder in the Midtown offices?
A lot of alcohol, a lot of liquor.
There is.
Red Solo cups.
There's some of that, too.
Oh, and then the Zaxby's bag.
Yeah.
I do see that. Nice, man. Yeah.
Southern
Folks, he
TLC
really does eat at
sandwich
Zaxby's
again?
a lot. I eat at Zaxby's sometimes, but not even because they sponsor. I just like Zaxby's. But my man goes after it at Zaxby's. I'd say 3 or 4 times a week.
Well, and my buddy was like, dude, I figured you'd be gaining a lot of weight by the amount of times you talk about Zaxby's on the show. But then when I was home for Thanksgiving, my mom's like, is everything okay? She's like, looks, you lost some weight. And I'm like, what? And I'm doing really good in the gym, haven't missed any days, making some gains. And I stepped on the scale, and I'm like, damn, I just dropped 6 pounds out of nowhere.
Are you saying that's because of Zaxby's?
No, I don't know. Maybe Zaxby's makes you lose weight.
You could be like the Jared spokes. Well, not in everything. Just in the Subway diet, you could be the Zaxby's diet.
So I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I need to start, branching out, trying different things on the menu, try to bulk back up. It is winter, after all. Anyhow, lots to talk about on today's show. We've got we spoke to the coordinators. We also have our I don't want to call it exclusive. I feel like that's always a little, I don't know, snooty.
Well, it was just you and I talking to Mike Norvell for 15 minutes.
Yeah, so we spoke to the head football coach of your Florida State Seminoles for 15 minutes on Monday morning. We woke up at 7 o'clock because we love you guys.
I woke up at 7:30.
Did you?
Yeah. I saw that you had already sent the link, and then you had texted to tell me you had sent the link. So if I don't sound like my normal bubbly self, understand I literally just woken up 14 minutes before that. I thought we did all right, though. I thought I did okay.
I mean, yeah.
I thought we crushed it.
I thought we laid it all on the line on Monday, to be honest with you. That, coordinator interviews, then you went and spoke to Leonard and the basketball team.
Yep.
Come back and do the podcast. I got to record with Michael Langston, friend of the program, Dallin Cuff, touching down here later on Monday evening. He's going to be on the call for the UNF game on Tuesday. And then my buddy, Mercedes Mike's in town as well, so we're probably going to tie one off. At least I will. They'll be responsible adults. So I might even be alive by the time you guys are listening to this, or I might be in the midst of hibernation.
Or in a gutter somewhere.
Days. Yeah, let's hope neither of those. Anyhow, we did speak to the head football coach, and then we spoke to the coordinators later on in the afternoon. Walked away, all 3 guys, quite impressed, I think. Lots of highs, lots of good things. Mm-hmm. Kenny scares me a little bit, not going to lie. Kenny's a little intense.
He is.
A little intense, scares me a little bit. But, hey, I'm no longer the 4-star quarterback from Tarpon Springs, Eastlake High School, that's got an offer sheet with 7 Division I programs on it, so he doesn't have to cater to me, which is fine.
Yeah, he's got a big personality, and
just intense.
Yeah, well, he is. It's bordering on the edge of, to me anyway, of being like pretty fun, but also could get
like wild card.
Could get wild card real quick.
Yeah.
Like if you were at a party with him or something, you're like, man, this guy's the best. We're hanging out. Oh no, he just something. His face just switched. One of those guys. But yeah, man, he's and they all say the same things. And again, I don't think it's coach speak. I don't think it's Norvell telling them, hey, make sure you bring up the brand, make sure you bring up the energy, and to build. You don't just give us trust, we earn it. I do think that's like the Norvell philosophy. But I think those two guys, the other two guys, believe in it wholeheartedly. That came off as very genuine to me. Is that is how they feel. You develop relationships with players and coaches you might potentially hire.
I thought it was kind of interesting, and after we spoke to Norvell, I went ahead and looked it up. I pulled up the transcript from Willie's press conference, his opening press conference, and I was looking for like a couple buzzwords, and I did see where he talked about trust, and it was funny because in Willie's opening introductory press conference back in 2017, he said that I tell these kids, you got to trust me. Like, he explicitly was telling the fans at that introductory press conference, part of what he does and to get this thing rolling is that he tells these players, listen, y'all have to trust me. I'm going to get the right guys. I'm going to do the right stuff for you. Whereas these guys, and I think it's coincidence. I don't think it's them scouting out what the previous staff had done. But to your point, it's just they talk about give us the opportunity to earn your trust.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give them the opportunity to earn my optimism. So I shall be. But anyhow, let's go ahead and play the interview now with head coach Mike Norvell, and then we'll talk a little bit about that and the coordinators right after this.
At Birch Orthodontics, they know what a difference a beautiful and healthy smile can make in your life.
They take the time to get to know you and perform a thorough exam so that they can make an individualized treatment plan just for you or your child.
They use the latest technology in a warm and comfortable environment. So whether you are interested in traditional metal or clear braces or clear aligners, they can give you the smile you deserve. They know investing in your smile means investing in your future. And at Birch Orthodontics, they are honored to be a part of your smile journey.
Serving Tallahassee for 16 years and supporting the Noles since forever. Check them out at birchorthodontics.com. BURCH orthodontics.com. Welcome back to Wake Up Warchant presented by Zaxby's. I'm Aslan. Corey's here as well, but who cares about us? We have the head football coach of the Florida State Seminoles, Mike Norvell, joining us here on the program this morning. Coach, thanks so much for taking time out. I know you're super busy, but can you just walk us through what the last, I guess now 8 days has been for you, taking this job and just getting everything in line?
I can tell you there hasn't been a whole lot of walking anywhere. We hit the ground running. It's been a great week, and just so many different things working to get accomplished here with the early signing day. I can tell you that the reception of from everybody here in Tallahassee, all throughout the state, the excitement, the buzz. I'm just so very grateful for for how we've been welcomed. And there's been a lot of work that's gone into this week. We've got a couple coordinators hired. We've been on the road. Had a wonderful official visit weekend, and we're just excited about what the future holds.
Mike, speaking of those two coordinators, when it becomes not obvious, but when you think to yourself after your first interview, or maybe a couple weeks after that, like, man, there's a chance I'm going to get this job. I am going to get this job. When do you reach out to them? Is it before you've actually landed the job and you say, hey, if this happens, would you be interested? I know one was, down the hall, but the other one was at Auburn. How does that work when you're trying to hire coaches? Because it is so sped up because of the early signing period. How does it work trying to hire coaches if you don't really yet have the job?
I mean, for me, personally, I had I always had a thought that, if this opportunity ended up becoming a reality of which direction I wanted to go, with our staff and especially those two hires, and but really I waited till it was official, and the thing about it was we were playing in a championship game the day before, and so that was really where a lot of the focus was, for our staff, for myself, making sure we did everything to help put those young men in a position to achieve success, and then on Sunday when I got down here to Tallahassee, made some phone calls. There was a lot of interest, a lot of excitement. The number of people that were reaching out to me was pretty remarkable. But I know that we've hired the right men for the job in both of those roles. I'm excited about how the staff is coming together. Even beyond that, and that's one of the critical elements of my job, is making sure that that I evaluate and you obviously recruit the right men, the right leaders to be able to help impact this football team, and we've gotten off to a great start with that, and excited about those guys and what they're going to bring here to the Florida State family.
And you had a history with Coach Dillingham, obviously going back to Arizona State. Your DC not much of a history, right? How did you know about him? I know he was at Marshall before you. I don't know if you guys had played them. What was your relationship with him, and how did that connection happen?
I think Adam Fuller is one of the brightest defensive minds in all of college football. And going through this process last year, I was determined to go identify a man that was truly skilled and talented in all that he did in implementing an attack style defense, one that was based off of fundamentals and technique that was going to put his players in the best position to achieve that success. But then on the flip side of it, had to be somebody that was relationship based. And so, in my last year at Memphis, I did, our defensive coordinator had gotten a head coaching job. And so I went through this process a year ago, and I thought Adam Fuller and the job that he did at Marshall was incredible. In every aspect of defensive play, they achieved success. And the way that his guys played, the physicality, the innovative schemes that were implemented, that he's somebody that I sought after. And then, this last year, the improvement that he brought, to the team there at Memphis, and just the person that he is, the teacher, it was a no-brainer for me to bring him here to lead our Florida State defense. And obviously he's excited about it. He's had an extensive history in recruiting the state. He's done that his entire career, so it was a great fit in that regards too. But just a wonderful man and leader that I know our guys are going to rally behind.
Coach, along the notes of that, we hear this term kind of coaching chemistry. You've worked closely, obviously, with Adam and Kenny. How do you find the right mix of guys being familiar, the benefit of that, but also balancing it with fresh ideas, new blood? You've had to do that so many times at Memphis where you haven't promoted guys internally. You've brought guys from the outside. How do you kind of balance guys that know how I want to run things, but then also bringing in fresh new ideas?
Yeah, it's all about the right fit. And, I think that is something, just like when you're recruiting players into your program, trying to make sure you're addressing the needs based off of the skills and talents that they have. It's the exact same thing with the coaching staff. And I don't want 10 coaches that think just like me, but I want 10 coaches that are going to bring, a unique mentality, a unique, personality that's going to make our football team better. And, but at the same time, the one thing that I will never go away from is that every coach that's going to be on the staff is going to be relationship based. It's going to be about the student athlete. It's going to be about their development, and it's going to be well beyond just what they do on the field. Because I think that if you can pour into a young man and develop them in every aspect of their life, then they're going to push harder. They're going to achieve more once they walk between the white lines and what we're asking them to accomplish there. So, like you said, I've had to hire quite a few coaches in my 4 years of being a head coach, and I've been fortunate to be able to attract some of the top coaches in the country. That's what we've already started doing here in our short time in Tallahassee, but we're excited about finding the right mix and guys that are really going to help elevate this program and our student athletes to the next level.
Coach, we've seen Scott Satterfield at Louisville, Dan Mullen at Florida, that they've taken over underachieving programs and they've turned them around in quite a bit of a hurry, it seems like. Is it all about the roster to get this thing back up and running, or is it more important to have the right plan to see this instant success kind of come around? And can you have instant success without risking sustained success?
It's for us. It's always focused on the immediate. It's about focusing on today. Every person involved in the program, from the top to the bottom, we have to work to be the personal best version of ourselves, and we've got to continue to improve in every aspect. Right now I'm in the evaluation stage. I'm going to meet with every player on our team, whether they're a senior and they've exhausted their eligibility, to the true freshman that has yet stepped foot on the playing surface. And and it's all about getting a sense of where we are. There's some things that are coming into the job that I know that we need to that we need to improve on and continue to build. But it really comes to just overall mindset, a mindset of improvement every single day. I can't have a football team that's looking 3 steps down the road and what we're going to do here at the end of next season unless we're focused on doing the things necessary to improve with where we are, and then continue to be consistent with that improvement in all that we do.
Coach, I don't know that you had been to Florida. I don't think you'd been to Florida State before you accepted the job. So I'm wondering, what have you seen of the campus? What have you seen of the city? Have you had time? Was this weekend like an official visit for you too? Like
there's no question about it. I was taking the tours with all of the prospects, and I tell you, I probably had a bigger smile on my face than even they did, and it was this is a special place. I mean, the campus, the university, the city of Tallahassee. I mean, it's incredible in every aspect. And the past weekend when I was hired, being able to walk on the field, walk through our band, just the excitement of what is to come. It is pretty special, and for us, I mean, this is a unique opportunity. We've got one of the most iconic brands in college football. There's a tradition of excellence. But I'll tell you, even with all the great facilities, the wonderful city, the best thing about this place that has stood out to me so far are the people and the former players that have reached out, the support that they've shown, from our administration. Starting with President Thrasher, David Coburn. I mean, everybody is excited about the opportunity that we have in front of us, and to have that vertical alignment is something that is necessary, and it's what gives us a great chance to take this next step and to do it in a quick fashion.
Okay, I want a scouting report for Mike Norvell, the wide receiver. What kind of player was he? What kind of speed was he? What was his what did he do best on a football field?
I had to find open windows when you can't run away from people, and obviously not the biggest of humans. You had to be smart. You had to find the spots in zone coverage, and then whenever you did get a one-on-one, the quarterback had to throw it away because I couldn't guarantee much separation.
Okay, well, fair. Gotcha.
Coach, last question for me. You've experienced such great success at Memphis, and that's what helped you, reach this job that you've talked about, having an iconic brand and the national appeal. So, I mean, is football no matter where you are, or do you bring the recipe you used at Memphis, or are there things that you have to maybe do differently at this level, of Power 5 football?
Yeah, I mean, I think pouring into student athletes and pushing them to be the best version of themselves in every aspect, really trying to create and develop a family atmosphere that has an all-inclusive approach. That's what it comes down to. We're going to be innovative in our schemes. I talked about having a new age approach with old school values, and that's who we are. I mean, it's going to come down to hard work, discipline, pushing our guys in every aspect of their life so that they can achieve in the things that they absolutely love. I mean, every player on my team wants to go out there and compete for championships. Every one of them wants to have an opportunity to play in the NFL. Every one of them talks about being successful beyond the days of football. But that's something that it doesn't just happen overnight. You have to work for it. You've got to sacrifice. You got to serve each other. And you've got to compete each and every day to be an elite, and that's what our process is going to be. It's going to be the process for coaches, for players, for everybody involved. But I'm definitely excited about the opportunity we have in front of us, and the young men I'm going to get to do it with.
Coach, what's it like when you walk into a school or you walk into a living room? And I'm not disrespecting where you were before, because you accomplished great things there. But the difference with a Florida State polo on compared to a Memphis polo or even an Arizona State polo before that, you talk about that brand, and I'm sure you've been around it. I mean, obviously you know college football, but what is that like these last 8 days when you're talking to kids about Florida State football compared to maybe – I'm not even going to have you compared to the other places you were. Just what do you mean by this brand?
I'll tell you that the places that I've been, we've had to build the brand. and we've had to show it throughout our example, through the way that we played, through the way that we did everything that we did as a program. There's no question that walking into a school, obviously, being anywhere in the country, the Florida State Seminole brand is as good as it gets in college football, and that's something that from a young boy that was growing up in Dallas, Texas, this is a team that I celebrated. This was a team that I looked up to and just loved the way that they played, loved the energy, loved the determination, the passion, and that hasn't changed. You can go anywhere in the country, and this being a Florida State Seminole is something to be proud of, and that's what we've got to continue to work to make sure that we're representing the brand the way it deserves to be represented, and to go out and make sure that our actions are fulfilling what that national expectation is. And so I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm honored to be able to represent this football team and this university. And, we're going to work hard at it each and every day, trying to improve and just like I said earlier, to be the best version of ourselves.
Mike, I just got one piece of advice, and I'll leave you with this. Try to talk the Marvin Wilson kid and the Tamari and Terry kid in the stand.
I appreciate that advice, but I'm about 10 steps ahead of you. I've already, and I will say this, it's not, obviously those are two great players, but, this journey started with our football team. And the very first place that I went when I landed on that jet was to go stand in front of them. And I'm honored to be able to coach and lead this team. And, it's going to take everybody. It's going to take from the top to the bottom, like I mentioned. We all have to be in this together. We've all got to make a commitment to growth, to loving and caring about each other, and to pushing ourselves to new levels. And so, obviously we have some phenomenal young men. And like you mentioned, there's a couple of great players that have choices to make. But, we're going to do this thing together. With every player, to go achieve greatness.
Florida State University head football coach Mike Norvell. Busy day ahead of you. Next 48 hours is going to be awfully busy. We'll get to catch up with him on Wednesday after the early signing period kicks off. We'll get Coach's thoughts on the latest batch of Seminoles he brings into the fold. Coach, thanks so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
I appreciate you guys, and go Noles.
We're back. It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Zaxby's. In case you forgot, we've been gone for like 20 minutes. We're back. All right, Corey. I guess we can jump all around the place. We can talk about the coordinators. We can talk about Mike Norvell. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the head coach first, then we get to his consiglieres. What I liked was him kind of coming back to the whole new school approach, old school values, and then he talked about hard work, discipline, and I know those are buzzy words. But again, I'll give them the opportunity. I will believe him at face value of what he's saying, that those are important parts of his program, because I think it's important. Like, that's the thing. I mean, I'm not very disciplined. I like sleeping in. I like doing what I want to do. It's kind of why I'm probably single right now. Hard work.
That and your personality.
No, I'm good.
I know. I was just kidding.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I don't want to say that I'm lazy. Like, when I have to work hard, I will. But I don't necessarily redline it all the time, all the day, every single day. So, like, I appreciate people who can. And I also acknowledge why people are better at their craft or in their industry usually than maybe I am. So, my thing when I talk about making practice miserable, like, I'm not trying to ruin people's lives. I'm not trying to make these kids want to quit. I'm not trying to make it junction boys, anything like that. I just think there is a certain element of this sport that it needs to be physical. It needs to be taxing and demanding physically and mentally, like on a day-to-day basis pretty much. Just never had that sort of feel, and then it never looked like that on Saturdays either. So that was sort of the disconnect. So that was the thing that I kind of appreciated most from hearing Coach Norvell talk about, was just the fact that he doesn't want to make those pillars of his program. I think it's important, man, especially with what this program has been.
Yeah, well, just being physical on both lines of scrimmage, especially the offensive one, would be it's got to happen. You just can't keep – the reason you're 18 and 19, well, there's a lot of factors, but your offensive line is the biggest one, I would say. Defense overall is probably number 2, but the offensive line has just been a train wreck, and it's just not a physical program. there's certain programs, even Michigan State right now, who struggled this year and wasn't good last year, right, or something like I can't remember. Didn't they not go to a bowl last year and they were just okay this year or something like that?
I'll check it out.
Look it up, Aslan. They still have that physical reputation. They still have a reputation of being physical. And there are other schools around the country that just have that reputation. Florida State does not, man. Florida State has been soft for a while.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that to me is what has to change. And that's I don't know how quickly you can do that. I don't know how quickly you just flip a mindset like that. But there is nothing physical and aggressive about this football program right now. And those are words that they're even hard to define in the they're not hard to define, but they're hard to it's hard to point to tangible evidence in a practice. Like, oh, now we're physical. It's just something that's earned over time. It's something that's proven over time. But I guess my point is maybe it's harder to point to a team and say, yeah, that team is really physical and aggressive. But it's easy to point to a team and says that team is not physical or aggressive at all. And when you've watched Florida State these last 2 years, really going back to 2017, but specifically these last 2 years, there's nothing aggressive or physical about them at all. And when you listen to Dilly talk and you listen to Norvell talk, and even Fuller when he was talking about going up against them in practice, they want to run the ball a lot. That is part of their – and, Willie did too. Man, Willie I know it's different, and I know it seems like we're parsing things to look better in hindsight or to look better now than we did then when we were talking about Willie and wanting to run the ball. But Willie's best running team by far in his career was with a quarterback that ran for 1,600 yards. Well, I don't necessarily know how physical you have to be up front, what kind of mindset the whole team has to have. You just have a great athlete and quarterback that can run around. Well, Memphis has had a 2,000-yard rusher at running back. And to do that, boy, you have to be physical. That is not just a play breaks down and we have the best athlete on the field. He's going to make something. He's going to make 18 yards out of nothing.
What about Dalvin? Exception to the rule kind of thing?
What do you mean?
But it wasn't 2,000 yards. But, Dalvin ran really well, and he didn't have a –
Yeah, but Dalvin was Dalvin.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Imagine Cam Akers with a good offensive line.
Yes.
That, to me, is what you're looking at. If he can bring that kind of mindset over where didn't they say they ran for 4,000 yards one year or close to it? They had running backs that count for 4,000 yards from line of scrimmage 2 years ago. That's what Dillingham said on Monday. And, man, obviously that's not going to happen at an ACC school, I wouldn't think. But that's really, really encouraging is that they get their playmakers the ball. They allowed their playmakers to make plays, which is something they preach ad nauseum. We're a place for playmakers and all that. But the fact that you can have running backs, not a quarterback running around, but running backs account for 4,000 yards of offense, you have to be physical to do that. And it has to be a way of life in your program. And so instill that. And if you can instill it at Memphis, you have to imagine you can instill it at Florida State. Just it's a matter of how long it's going to take.
Another thing that I liked from Coach Norvell was his sort of answer about, how do you got this job because of what you've done. So, do you have guys that want to follow that kind of by the book, or do you need to change? You need to evolve? Is fresh blood kind of a good thing? And he talked about how he doesn't want a room of a bunch of guys that think just like he does.
Right.
I think that was kind of a bit revealing, a bit encouraging. I don't know how many people
he wants
really
them to have similar outlooks, maybe
work ethic.
I
think is what Adam Fuller said. We all have similar work ethic, but we all don't think the same.
Yeah, they're like-minded in the way they go about their jobs, but that doesn't mean they don't disagree. Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to think. This past season, it feels like Willie probably delegated most of that sort of stuff to Kendall, but then wanted to get involved once games started slipping out of control or when situations started arising in the middle of games. But where was that in 2018? I mean, do you really think Walt Bell could have offered any sort of – not that I don't think Willie would have been arrogant, like, you don't know what you're talking about, but it just didn't seem like things were arranged to where what is Greg Fry really bringing to the table? It's more of those things where I'm going to call the plays. If I need a run play, I'll say, hey, Greg, what do you got? If I need another pass, if I need some help, I'll ask Walt, what do you have kind of dialed up? It didn't really feel like a real sort of, I'm bringing in fresh ideas from all corners. It's kind of like, hey, I got what I do. I've done what I've done. It's going to work out. And, if I need help, yeah, sure, I'll ask for it. So, I think that's kind of a refreshing approach.
Well, in that regard, too, but though when you look, this is different because he's got a guy that he's worked with now this is his fourth year. He'll be working with Dillingham, and they've known each other for 8 years. which was a cool story. If you haven't seen it, we won't go into it, but the video, go online to warchant.com or YouTube.
There you go.
Preferably
Look at you.
Warchant.
Sell it, Corey.
But go watch the Dillingham video where he talks about just going up as a college student at Arizona State and asking to just kind of hang out and watch film with Norvell because he was one of the up-and-coming coaches in the country. I thought that was pretty illuminating. But that in this instance with Norvell, he has a guy. It's a brain trust that whatever it was 2 years ago. I think Memphis was second in the country in total offense. The year before that, they worked together. They were fourth. So this is a brain trust that has worked together. It knows that they get results, like elite results. To me, again, when you talk about wanting to be encouraged, these guys have never failed together. All they do is put up huge yards and huge points together. Kendall Briles had always done that too, but he wasn't the head coach, and we don't know how much say he had in everything. I think Willie was hands off for the most part, but it certainly seemed like there were a few moments where Willie's hands were all over either the play calling or the game planning. These two guys work very, very well together. Did Willie and Kendall work well together? I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. I don't know if they did or not. They worked better than Willie and Walt Bell did, but that's not saying anything. Me and Aslan worked better than Willie and Walt Bell did. A lot better, I'd say.
That's a high bar. Yeah,
that's a lot better. We were like Jimbo and Randy Sanders.
That's right.
2013, Jimbo and Randy Sanders. So that to me, when you hear Dillingham talk about Norvell and you hear Norvell talk about Dillingham, and the fact that they see things so similarly, and you know that he can trust Dillingham to work with it. Just, man, work with my quarterbacks, teach them what they need to be taught. Get that done and teach them what they need to be taught. There is no guessing whether your message is getting delivered. It is absolutely getting delivered because you trust this guy, I would imagine, more than you trust anybody else on the staff. So that, to me, is, again, a good sign. And it sure seems like Dillingham loves the guy and really, really believes in Norvell. That's another thing, too, that came across with both. Talking to Norvell, like we did a few minutes ago that you listened to, but also talking to those he's about Norvell. There's a lot of belief in one another. Those guys believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that Mike Norvell is a great football coach. They do. I think Norvell believes in both of them. Can you say the same thing about other staffs we've had here in the past?
Right. Oh, yeah.
And I'm not just
Jimbo. Jimbo too, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my ideas.
I don't think Jimbo really believed in his assistants nearly enough. I think Norvell truly believes in these guys, and maybe more importantly, these guys believe in him. They believe in his message and how he does things and how he goes about his life and his business. That should be a nothing but a positive moving forward.
I mean, he talked about their bond. I mean, the way that Dillingham, when I kind of asked Dillingham just about, and I guess I incorrectly presumed because we were sort of corrected after the press conference, but we were kind of clarified that yes, Dillingham did not call plays when he was at Memphis with Norvell, but that has not been decided yet. So, who knows?
Can you imagine, though, Aslan, that Norvell gets this job? Mm-hmm. He gets this job almost solely on well, his record was good, but what his offense has done.
Yeah.
He's considered an offensive guru. An up-and-coming phenom.
Yeah.
Has been that way for 7 or 8 years. Can you imagine that he gets this job at this moment in time and then says, hey, 29-year-old, you just do what you want. I'm going to be more of an overseer. I'm going to be more of a delegator. No chance. No chance my man is not calling plays. It's what he does.
Well, can you be involved but then not call plays?
Perhaps, but would you?
We want to manage the game a little bit better. And
this first year?
Hey, I'm with you. I just feel like the fact that was brought up.
Maybe it was the fact that it was brought up by the Florida State SID made you. It was like, okay, well, why would he even think to say that? But I don't know if he was doing that on his own or if they've actually had real discussions about it. Yeah. But I mean, there's no Norvell's going to have the headset on. Let's just put it
right.
Let's put it that way. Whether he's calling every play, he's going to make suggestions. I think that will be followed. But I have to imagine he's called plays now for 7 years. It got him from 8 years. It got him from the Pittsburgh OC job to the Florida State head coach. I don't think now is the time you decide I just want to delegate. He just went 12-1 at Memphis calling plays. Yeah. It's not like he's had a lot of bad bad experiences as a play caller. So I would think he's going to be calling plays.
Yeah, well, maybe he had to offer that to Dillingham to get him to clutch him
Yeah,
away
man,
from Auburn.
sure, absolutely, you can call plays. I know Gus won't let you. You can call a reverse anytime you want. Anytime you want, tell me you want a reverse.
But yeah, just to hear the way that Dillingham, when I asked him about, so what's like the value that you bring, kind of, if you're not going to be calling plays, and just talked about how the sort of the energy or the synergy that he has with Mike Norvell, he can't even describe it. Like that's just how on the page.
He said unique dynamic. I think 3 times talking about their dynamic.
So maybe some people need that, right? Like you need like Ahmad had MJ, and you got to have that sort of partner, kind of to bring the best out in you.
Who had MJ?
I don't know, Ahmad Rashad. I'm trying to think, great sports duos.
You talking about Ahmad Rashad and Michael Jordan?
Yeah.
Oh.
They elevate each other. Like, they got each other popular.
I thought you were talking about.
And then, like, Cosell had Ali.
I figured you would have said Pippen and
MJ?
Yeah. They won more championships than Ahmad and MJ.
How about, like,
did.
Tex Winter and Phil Jackson?
Okay. All right. Sure.
I don't want to set the bar too high.
Bobby and Mickey?
Okay.
Although Bobby didn't do anything to do with that. So Bobby and, like, Mark Richt, maybe.
Yeah. I always have this. I like to think that Bobby and Mickey obviously love each other, but I want to believe like they never really talked to each other. Like it was just like Mickey did his own thing. Mickey's like, Bobby, I got us handled.
Yeah.
Like, don't you worry about a thing. I got us.
I wonder if Bobby even knew where the defense met.
Yeah.
Like what meeting room do they go in? What's their schedule like for film session?
So I mean, again though, he's a little bit actually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, let me close that. Hold on.
Aslan's got the lawn guy over.
Or this might be a little chopped up, discombobulated. Lost my train of thought. Had to get up and close the windows. It's a beautiful day out, but apparently such a beautiful day that the lawn care guys are here at the crib right now doing everything right up on our faces, right up in our ear. I'm waving at them right now. They're on the deck. They're waving with all the people holding the signs in the Midtown offices. But let me just go ahead and pivot, I guess, right to Adam Fuller. That was my favorite part of the Monday. I did like talking to Coach Norvell, but, I can't be waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Come on, man. So I'll give the tip of the cap to Adam Fuller. I like the fact that he's from, like, Massachusetts. Talking about Florida State.
Yeah,
like, I'm like,
Boston
all right,
guy.
give me some of that. Give me some of that attitude. I appreciate that. Heck yeah. I appreciate kind of his journey and the way he sort of talked about. I don't imagine. I was just impressed with the way he presented himself and his vision with things. One of the things that he said that I didn't even listen, I didn't even catch live, but I heard it when I was going back and posting the video, was he kept talking about, I want to play fast, and I'm like, what does that mean? What does it mean to play fast on defense? Like, you don't get the ability to set the tempo and the pace when you're on defense. And he talked about, I want to make sure we line up fast,
right?
Which probably sounds so elementary and so basic, but golly, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, to not be looking at the sideline when a ball snap or not really set. Absolutely. And also he talked about, making the defense simple enough that they can play fast in it.
Yeah.
Maybe looking more complex than maybe they actually are. I thought that stuff was interesting too. We might give a lot of different looks, but we might appear multiple. And there will be multiple, but they might appear more multiple than they actually are. And that every game is going to tell a story. When they watch film, they'll be trying to set up offenses to think one thing when they're actually doing another, which is all good to see, man. It's all good to see. It is chess out there now. It just is. Offenses are so advanced. These coordinators and these quarterbacks and these receivers are all so good and so talented that it isn't like Mickey's day, man, where you could just rush 4 and play man-to-man on the outside. I mean, you got to mix it up some. And heavens to Betsy, teach them how to play a zone. Just teach them how to play a zone. Teach your linebackers how to get proper depth. Teach your safeties how to read pass patterns and break on balls and make plays. Just your DBs and your linebackers, get them somehow working in concert together where they're just not huge swaths of open grass. And that was another thing that Dillingham talked about when he said – it was funny that he said he watched almost all their games. Yeah. It's almost like he really didn't want to go to Auburn.
I'm glad you asked him that. I was curious to know why he did leave. But
he said it was a hard decision. Now, normally it would not be a hard decision to leave Memphis for Auburn. It's more money. It's more exposure. It's a bigger conference. He was in the Iron Bowl a month ago, but less than a month ago. But he didn't seem like he wanted to go to Auburn. He really and he so much so that he said it was a hard decision. And also he texted Adam Fuller during the season Meanwhile, he wasn't on the staff
The guy
with
never
Adam
met,
Fuller.
yeah.
Adam Fuller came when he left, so they had never met. But he still was building a relationship with the Memphis DC just to tell him how impressed he was, I assume, with his defenses. And he said he watched almost all their games. Even though he was coaching at Auburn, he was still so connected and invested with Norvell and those players that he wanted to see how they were doing, even as he had his own, pretty decent season going on at Auburn.
Wow.
And and he said that the thing that impressed him the most about Fuller was that they didn't give up a lot of just wide open plays. He goes, when you're as aggressive as they are on defense, and he is aggressive, usually you're going to get a free runner, you're going to have a breakdown, you're going to have a miscommunication, you're going to give them gimmies, you're going to give them gifts. And he says, for the most part, they didn't do that, which was the most impressive thing. He goes, because when you play as a coordinator, as an offensive guy, when you're trying to game plan for a defense that's aggressive but doesn't give up big plays, that doesn't just lose assignments, that can be really, really hard to game plan for. So they did the requisite job of talking each other up, which, is a good idea in the sense that Florida State fans have never heard of either one of these dudes, have no connection with Memphis football at all. I can't imagine there's been more than, until that AAC championship game, how many Florida State fans had seen a full Memphis game? 6, 9? Maybe they lived in Memphis.
Yeah,
maybe a fan took them to a game.
There's a whole bunch of, I would see people on Twitter like, I live in Memphis, but I'm a Florida State fan. I'm so happy to see Coach Norvell go to Florida State. They're out there.
Not many, though.
Yeah.
Probably not a huge percentage. So they really did represent themselves well, and they represented Norvell well, I thought. I thought you can see why these three guys would be able to form the nucleus of a really, really dynamic and good coaching staff. Now they could go 2-10 the next 3 years. I'm done predicting success, but you can see if they are successful, why they would be successful. It's three very like-minded dudes, all energetic in different ways. One, like we said, is wild card energetic.
Yeah,
could go wrong real quick with him. Sang in the middle of a press conference. And liked Harry Potter, apparently, which I guess he was a kid. He had to have been in elementary school when those books came out, right? Like, legitimately.
I don't know. I've never seen Harry Potter.
No, I mean the books. Though.
I know.
Yeah,
I never read the
either.
books either,
Yeah,
right?
I saw the first Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need to do this anymore. Right. I mean, there was like they're standing on a chessboard.
Was it Brady?
No, Brady wasn't born yet. This was like the first Harry Potter came out in like 2000, I think.
Really?
Oh yeah, 99.
Oh,
I mean,
nice.
Emma Watson was like 8, and now she's Emma Watson. Yeah. So yeah, at least 20 years ago, I think. But I remember watching the first Harry Potter and being like, I'm 26 years old. I don't need to watch this. It just doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, it was cool enough, I guess. But I remember something about a chessboard where there were humans on a chessboard, and I remember the game where they were flying around. Yeah. That's all I remember about any of it. And he had glasses. But anyway, so the new offensive coordinator of Florida State is a Harry Potter fan. Kendall Bryce might have been one too. He's similar aged. Yeah. But I just was impressed with the way they all talked about each other. And it certainly sounds like they're all on the same page as far as the message about Florida State and what they're trying to do here, and what Norvell is, what his philosophy is. They were in lockstep, which I don't think it was preached. I don't think it was rehearsed. I think that's the truth. They are in lockstep with each other, and now you got to get an O-line coach. That you pay him 2.8, whatever you have to do to get a great O-line coach here. And then start buying offensive linemen somewhere around this country.
Yeah, I mean, the Patriots are about to go down in a blaze of glory with this whole cheating fiasco. Let's get Dante Scarnecchia out of Boston. Come out.
Yeah, he's another Boston guy. He can hang out with Fuller, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's a little old in the hoof, old in the tooth. Just come down here, kind of semi-retirement, just hang out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Coach college ball. It's a lot easier on you.
Wonder what he makes.
I don't know. I remember one time I tried to find out how much Bill Belichick made, and you can't find it. It's
how
like
weird is that, though? Yeah, but the
almost.
college teams you can find readily. Yeah. It's odd.
I kind of appreciate Adam Fuller's journey, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I was going to ask that. You asked it, but I was going to ask him about that.
I'm still a little bit worried about, being, mid-40s and never being at a Power 5 job, like in any capacity. That just gives me a little bit of pause and trepidation. I did appreciate kind of, obviously his background and what he discussed. It's cool. He talked about the fact that and by the way, the coordinators are also in a separate podcast that also drops, so don't get confused. This is the show. The coordinators are on an entirely separate podcast mics in this one.
Okay.
I saw Ira reply to somebody. Somebody asked if there was going to be a video replay, and Ira was like, yeah, and we'll also put the audio and the podcast video. I'm like, all right, well.
Guess Ira's our producer now.
Yeah,
Great.
executive producer.
Cool, man.
Add that to your bio.
Why wasn't he up at 7:30 doing the show? I'm sure he probably was up at 7:30.
He probably was. Does he ever sleep, man?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Never sleeps. That's what keeps.
That's why he's grumpy sometimes.
Never, man. You make him grumpy.
I do. I have that effect on people.
But I mean, he talked about when he graduated college. Well, he said he played like in an all-star game and he realized it wasn't going to be for him, so he wanted to get into coaching. Or maybe that was Dilly. Maybe I'm getting conflated. But anyway, he basically said he was going to become a trooper.
No, it was Fuller.
Was it Fuller?
Yeah.
He was going to be a trooper, right?
Yeah. State trooper.
Trooper. Out of almost respect for his grandfather, who was a World War II veteran, and then either he, after he got out of taking his test to become like a state trooper or whatever, decided it just wasn't going to be for him. So just kind of scratched and clawed for any opportunity he could get. Ends up going to some trade technical college that had like a Division III football program. Then ends up getting in touch.
Got paid $2,000 a year to do that.
Fired the coach in November. Ends up getting in touch with some other guy who was an AD/head coach at like the division.
Wagner.
Was it there?
Yeah.
And they just talked about kind of the steady growth that he made. Maybe this is the splashy names have their baggage as well. And somebody kind of tweeted at me that I'm too fixated on that, to which I don't really agree with, but whatever. Maybe you can find a diamond in the rough. Like maybe this guy is a diamond in the rough. I do want to ask Mike Norvell when we speak to him on Wednesday during signing day, just like how did he find out about Adam Fuller? Did people tell him about Adam Fuller? Does he have someone who worked at Marshall that knew about Adam Fuller? Did they have a common opponent one season and he's watching tape and seeing the way that
I tried to ask him that. I don't think he answered it, but I tried to ask him that in our interview.
Well, I think you asked him like what was his thoughts when he first met Mike Norvell. And then he talked about
when we talked to Norvell, I thought I asked him about what he knew about Adam. How did he know about him? Because I don't think they'd ever coached against each other unless he'd gone up.
7:45 a.m. But
hey man, it's all a blur.
I don't remember it, but
I felt like I dreamed it.
Yeah, I'm curious kind of how that sort of came about. But no, I mean, just again, he talked about it's going to be about putting the players in a position to make plays. They want to play fast. They're going to be hardworking. It's all about they have to have the right work ethic. I think he said something about he doesn't need to tell the guys anything. It's all about the way they're gonna kind of play. There is no sort of scheme. There is a scheme, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is like playing fast, playing physical. He mentioned that when people think about Florida State defenses, no one talks about Mickey Andrews and the cover two or Mickey Andrews and the man-to-man defense that just smothered everybody. It's the pass rush that played like this. It's the cornerbacks who played like this, the linebackers who tackled like that. So I think maybe there's a good sort of balance between appreciating and realizing how important it is to schematically get things correct, but then also like develop a true identity because that's how you're going to be remembered ultimately.
Yeah, and that's how Harlan Barnett's going to be remembered. His team's identity. Yeah. It works both ways, right? Like it's not going to be remembered positively. Charles Kelly even had a couple pretty okay defenses. But what was his...
Well, we didn't like, even in the moment, it's almost hindsight that we appreciate those just because of how bad it's been. I don't think 15, as many skilled players as there were on that side of the ball, I didn't feel really great about that defense. And then 16, I mean, DeMarcus Walker played with his hair on fire all season long, but I didn't really feel that great about the defense. And then the UNC game stuck in your craw, the way they looked in the first half or the first three quarters.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Louisville game.
No, I was saying that he had a couple. The 16 defense wasn't good. The 14 defense, it should have been better. But the 15 defense was his best defense. But even then, it never was. I don't know. It never felt like Florida State defense. It just didn't. Didn't create turnovers for the most part. Didn't seem to attack. Jalen helped a lot because he was just a maniac. So they started playing more like Jalen. But once he left, and then Derwin got hurt, it just seemed to fizzle and just be. They're out there playing defense. But, man, he's right. And it's the same thing with when Florida was winning games with Muschamp, the one year they won games. And I used to get in this argument with Cameron all the time on headlines Because he's like, man, they don't care how they win. As long as you're winning, they don't care if it's 19-14. Fans don't care if it's 19-14 or 22-13. And I'm like, dude, these are University of Florida fans. They're used to Spurrier. They grew up on Spurrier. They're used to fun and gun, 40 points, setting records in other people's stadiums, just stepping on their throat. And they just had Tebow. In all those offenses, they care about that, man. Yeah, you might come across as spoiled because you're not doing cartwheels for a 22-16 win, but they expect more. They love in the state of Florida. You should always have an electric offense, in my opinion, because of all the skill players that are here. So on that same token, on the flip side, when you talk about Florida State fans, man, they have a certain standard they hold defenses to. And I'm sorry, Harlan, and I'm sorry, Charles Kelly, but it might be unfair. It is unfair. It's a whole different era now. But Mickey Andrews is always looming over you guys. Prime Mickey Andrews, not 2009 Mickey Andrews. He's right there with you. The 90s Mickey Andrews is looming over you guys because his defenses, I think Fuller used the word inspired. Talking about watching that or walking past Bowden statue, knowing Mickey's going to walk into his office one day. It's inspiring. And I think, again, genuine. I don't think he could name a ton of players off those 90s teams, but I do believe that he watched Florida State football as a defensive guy back then in the 90s and was like, holy cow, is this fun to watch. I would love to be able to work with kids like this and develop a defense that just attacks like this. They just attacked like they were so mad at everyone on the offense that they wanted to send them all to the hospital. That's how they played. They didn't catch tackle. They didn't catch running backs and fall backwards. And so if he could just instill a little bit of that, that's what Florida State fans want to see. They are tired of seeing, and I guess I shouldn't speak for Florida State fans. Nobody elected me, but to do this,
we're marching behind you, Corey. But this is you're leading the crusade on this one.
But man, it's been so depressing to watch average defenses play uninspired and unaggressive, because that's not what Florida State football has ever been. Bowden got there in 76. Great, man. They had a lot of fun seasons, a lot of fun games. It wasn't until Mickey got there in 85 that 85 class turned into the 87 start of the dynasty. That's not a coincidence. The reason Florida State became Florida State, Bobby Bowden won, Mickey Andrews 1A. How he got that defense. They used to win games 42-41 or lose games to Auburn in 84, 42-41. Beat East Carolina 47-46. They played in those games all the time. Mickey got there, and all of a sudden it was 47-6 or 47-9, and the quarterback had to get stretchered out. Like, that's how Florida State played. Put him in a body bag. That's how Florida State played back then, man. And so the people my age and a little bit younger grew up on Florida State football that just attacked and was vicious on defense. Get that back, man. Find a way to get that back. I'm sure there's some Boulwares and some Wilsons and some Wadsworths out there, some Marvin Joneses. Go get them here.
There's a Peter Warwick Jr. Well, I mean, different side of the ball, but I guess he helped his high school win a 6A title in Georgia. I don't know. You guys spell it out. I can't keep up with it. Like, people.
Did they beat Lowndes?
I think somebody. I don't know. I saw.
Oh, I know he was in the state championship game.
Maybe
I wasn't sure if he won.
I think maybe they may. I can't speak to who won it, but I did see something about, because like in Florida, we'll write the numeral 6 and then an A next to it, like 6A. But in Georgia, it's A.
Yeah, that was always fun. That was always fun to have to type.
I gotta sit here and like decipher all that nonsense. I guess the tricky thing is trying to talk about the enthusiasm and optimism for this staff, and then not talking about what they're replacing. Because to me, I just think so much of it is based on what they're replacing.
Yeah, he did win. Marietta beat Lowndes.
Didn't they?
How about that? So, yeah, Peter Warwick is a safety for them.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
Look
he's
at that.
A safety.
Come on down. Was he a senior? I haven't even heard his name in any recruiting services.
I'm pretty sure he's a senior, yeah.
Maybe he's a Florida State caliber.
Beat him 17-9. How about that?
That's a joke, by the way, everybody.
Sure.
I'm going to look him up. I don't even know where he's at in terms of like recruiting and things like that. But yeah, can we talk about these guys and why we think they're good without talking about the previous staff?
Well, the main reason I talk about the previous staff is if there is a difference, to just show because I just feel like if you were listening to this show in February of 2017 when it debuted with you and I think it was February or March.
18.
18, sorry. It was a lot of the same things. Like, we talked about, we didn't know, but we're like, okay, well, this looks good. Hey, receivers coach isn't that important. Mm-hmm. And Greg Fry is supposedly good at his job, and Harlan Barnett was really good at Michigan State. That's a good hire. So I don't want it to sound like we're just jumping on board, with our pom-poms. I know you're not criticizing me or.
Yeah, I'm not telling you to calm down. I'm not.
No, but like I don't want to just because it's a new coach with a new staff. Let's just jump on the bandwagon again and wave our pom-poms and say what great hires we think they are, without at least giving reasons for it. Right. And when you give reasons for it, to me they have to be a little different than the reasons we gave for the last guys because they weren't good. So that's usually why I bring up a staff is to the previous staff is to maybe show the difference. And we do have we do have hindsight, the fortune of hindsight to be able to look back and say, oh, well, this was actually a bad sign. You brought them up in the real time, a lot of them, but they just the way they practiced to start out, Talking
about how easy it's going to be. I mean, to come here
and
talk about it's going to be lethal. I mean, I went back and look at the transcript on it, and it was almost like he paid Joey Knight from the St. Pete Times to come up here at that press conference. Like Joey Knight from the Tampa Bay Times asked him, a lot of fans here at Florida State are interested about what your offense is going to look like. Willie, can you talk to them about that? And in the transcript, it's like, Joey, you mean the Gulf Coast offense, right? Like, and then he's like, yes, coach, can you tell us more about that? And he's like, lethal simplicity. And he goes into the whole thing, and then everyone's like, man, that's right. Like, Jimbo had these guys so mentally locked up and so worried. Let them play loose. Let them play free. Let them be who they are. It's going to be easy. Like, stop making football such a complicated thing, Aslan. It's an easy thing. It's like, well, man, if it was so easy, I would not be sitting in my living room at the Midtown offices talking about it on a podcast. I'd coach it for $600,000, get fired after a year, and then collect another $500,000. It's a tough damn game played by tough damn guys, and you have to implement things that are going to sharpen those assets and those aspects of your game and your mindset. And it sounds like these guys are willing to do that. And again, man, I hate to keep piling on. I don't even know how long that transcript was. I literally searched the entire document for the word toughness or tough or hard work. And the only thing that came up for tough and hard was like it was tough to leave Oregon. It was a hard decision. And again, I'm not knocking it, but just we did not hear about the sweat and the blood and the difficulty that was going to go into making this back to what it had to be. And to me, it's refreshing to hear your defensive coordinator talk about it and your head coach mentioned in his introductory press conference, and then at 7:45 in the morning between 3 other radio interviews, that's still something that he wants to touch on when he's talking about his football team in terms of what he's trying to get accomplished. Like, those are things that make me feel encouraged. Like Kenny Dillingham, as much I'm joking about his intensity and stuff, I'll trust Mike Norvell that I think he'll make Mike's job easy. Like, it's something that Jimbo
easier.
Easier. Thank you. For Jimbo being so much of a micromanager and wanting control over his offense, like, that never bothered me. What kind of bothered me was I never felt he had somebody that was even remotely on his level to help him out with that kind of stuff. Like Nick Saban always had Kirby Smart to lean on.
Right.
Like Pete Carroll had great offensive coaches that he could lean on to handle on that side of the ball. I feel like Jimbo never had anybody offensively. I don't think he trusted James Coley.
He definitely didn't trust him. He was hired to be a recruiter. Yeah. But I do think he trusted Sanders.
He came around.
I think Sanders was
good bad cop to him a little
somebody bit. Somebody he could trust. No. That doesn't mean he did trust. You know what I mean? Sanders was a guy that, he had a long history in football. He'd been a coordinator at Kentucky in the SEC. So
Tennessee for most of the time.
Right. So he had a track record where if Jimbo wanted to, he could have really delegated to him and gave him more responsibility than he did. I just don't think Jimbo wanted to do that with anyone.
Right.
It didn't matter who it was going to be. Yeah. I do think that Norvell might be a little different in that. It's just the way Dillingham talks. It seems like they do have a working relationship where he does have a lot of responsibility, and he's like he is the offensive coordinator in name. I don't think it's just that if he doesn't call plays, I don't think that means he's not the offensive coordinator. I think he is. Obviously Norvell is the head coach. Norvell will oversee it, but I do think he trusts Dillingham. If he's like, man, I've got to go watch what's going on with the secondary for a couple of days. I got to go watch them practice just for a couple of days. Kenny, can you He'd be like, yeah, I know what you want.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, man.
Absolutely.
Willie never had that.
Yeah.
Honestly, didn't.
No,
He could trust Kendall. He couldn't trust Walt Bell. Didn't trust Walt Bell at all, it doesn't seem like. And then with Kendall, he could have, but I don't know if he did. I don't know if he could separate himself from being the offensive guy.
Right. But it's to the point of, I feel like the OC hire, I don't think was that big of a deal. That's something that gives him comfort, helps make things more efficient for him. I think
has his message, philosophy, yeah.
But then, like, defensively, I mean, to make this hire again, to find a guy, kind of pluck him out of obscurity at a place like Marshall, help you turn things around at Memphis and get you to 12 wins, get you the conference title finally. I mean, it just there's a positive sort of momentum built from those sort of moves, and that you know, when you juxtapose it to what was here previously, just kind of makes me a little bit more optimistic. And then the things I'm going to get killed for this thing because people will be like, well, you were unfair to Willie or something. I mean, I can't win with the people out there, but yeah, I mean, there's. I feel the defense I think will take well to Adam Fuller, man. Like, I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to be great and amazing, but I just feel like his story, his journey, his sort of mentality of, listen, we're just going to come here and work. He's like, I'm going to put them in good position. He's like, we're going to. I like the way he talked about, like, the season is going to be a movie. He's like, and we know how it ends. The offense is not going to. He's like, we're going to paint a picture that we want them to think this is how it's going to be, but we're going to show them something else. And just the mindset. I just think a guy who's had to earn everything the hard way and go through and toil away. I mean, I just think there's a certain sort of. I mean, I don't know if it's a message, but when people know that's what you came from and that's what you had to do to get there, I mean, I think they're more willing to listen to what you have to say. And I don't have any sort of issues any longer. Not that I had issues, but some of my trepidations I've quelled since getting here.
Well, we'll see. I was impressed with him. I liked him. He seemed like a genuine dude, and I'm sure he knows the sport and knows football. And, yeah, he's recruited Florida, but he was recruiting Florida for Marshall, man.
I like how he said, I met Odell on the recruiting trail. I think I remember him better than he remembers me.
Because, man, Odell wasn't concerned at all about whoever Marshall was recruiting. Yeah. But he's never had to recruit against these types of guys. He just hasn't. And if you're a kid at Lowndes and you've got Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, and Adam Fuller in your office talking to you about the defense, I don't know that name resonates enough. So what has to happen? It can, though. I'm not swearing them off. It's got to be a turnaround quickly. And I don't mean quickly into a top 10 defense. I mean quickly from a bottom 2 ACC defense to a top half ACC defense. Like, just be
from 90 to 60.
Just be
50,
respectable next year. Just be competent. If you can just go to competency, like Mark Stoops did in 2010. Yeah. And remember, his second game, he was embarrassed by his brother. Yeah. Like, Bob could have put up 100 on Florida State that day if he wanted to. And Florida State had some players on the defense. They were young, but they had some players, and they just were obliterated. So it's going to take some time. But by the end of the year, we see that, okay, man, Florida State really has turned. He hasn't turned it around where it's going full steam in the other direction, but he stopped going in the wrong direction and started to pivot towards the right direction. And instead of giving up 31 points a game, you're giving up 23. And instead of 420 yards per game, you're giving up 350. If you've made nice strides, 360, then all of a sudden maybe your name starts to resonate more. But again, the concern I have is still the concern I have is I mean, you have, how many defensive coaches are in this country? 150, 200, counting the NFL and counting some guys that maybe aren't coordinators but are position coaches at like in Alabama or Georgia. You got all those people to choose from. For the defensive coordinator of Florida State, right. And you went right down the hall. That's who you ended up choosing.
Absolutely.
That could be a little concerning, I think. Disconcerting and concerning to combine the two.
But you can't be that dense to make.
Absolutely.
He realizes how.
The point I made. I think it was last week about. I trust Norvell's football acumen enough, and the fact that he's a realist, man. He knows how important this hire is. You can't just make this hire just, all right, well, what's easy? Who's next to me? Yeah. Hey, you want to do it? Like you're hiring a receivers coach on a plane flight to Washington? Like, I don't think he did that. I think he really, really, for that 1 year, was truly impressed with this guy and was like, this guy has been an undiscovered gem that we're getting at Florida State. That what he did at Memphis, he's going to have better players at Florida State at his disposal. I can't wait to see what he does with that because that's how impressed Norvell was with him. So
It's going to take a few years to have better players. Right now, with their inherited,
I think they have better. They still have better
Memphis.
players than Memphis, but relative to the competition, it's probably similar, right? Like wouldn't you say like the Memphis defenders against the AAC offenses?
No, I think you're in a much better position in Memphis. I think your defense is much more outmatching the offense you're going up at Memphis than Florida State's
Maybe. I
defense
mean, Memphis. He's right. Dillingham brought that up. Like they had been bad on offense the last couple of years. He was there. Sorry, they've been bad on defense.
Yes.
The last couple of years, and that's why he was so impressed with that turnaround. Was because of just if you look at the numbers, it really was a pretty stark turnaround between 18 and 19 for the Memphis defense in just 1 year. So that gives you hope. The fact that Norvell's not a dummy, man, like he knows how important this hire is. Just like Willie Taggart did. Let's be honest. We can criticize the Harlan Barnett hire now. I get it. But you got the co-defensive coordinator at Michigan State. At Michigan State, who had been in the college football playoff the year before, almost solely on the strength of their defense. Because I don't even remember who their quarterback was. It was some slappy that couldn't throw it to his mama. Because that's all Michigan State has. I can't remember who it was.
Oh, I'm not going to look it up.
Wasn't Kirk Cousins?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Drew Stanton either.
Right. But it was. I mean, I know
he went to the Raiders and then flamed out. Oh man,
Stockel, is that somebody? Is that a name? That sounds like a Michigan State name.
No.
But they scored how many against Alabama in the playoff game? It was a 0, right? They got shut out. It was close. So they had no chance on offense. But the Michigan State defense was good. Willie knew how important that hire was. He went and in his mind got the best person available.
Well, he tried to get Levin and he couldn't. We think he might try to go after Jim Leonard.
Oh, yeah, maybe. So Leonard might have been better, sure. But if you're looking at the resumes, they weren't much different. Yeah. And Florida State was willing to pay him $950,000 or whatever they paid Harlan to come. Like they knew, Florida State knew, and Willie knew how important that hire was. And they went and tried to get who they thought was the best guy in the country for the job because of what he'd done at Michigan State. It turns out, maybe I'm not going to say they were sold a bill of goods, like that he wasn't who they thought they were. Just maybe he didn't have as much impact on that Michigan State defense as we thought. Yeah. Maybe it was more D'Antoni and the other co-DC. Or maybe
Tressel's son. It was right.
Yeah, right. Or maybe Harlan just it was a couple of bad years and he didn't have great talent. I don't know what the deal was, but the defense was bad from start to finish. It was bad. But Norvell knows how big this hire is too, man. Like it's his high. It's the hire because Florida State's not going to be able to score 49 points a game like he can at Memphis. You're just not going to be able to do that. You're going to have to turn the defense around. And if this guy was his first or second choice, which I assume it is, either 1 or 1A.
I would assume he'd probably try to go after Dan Lanning.
I get you. I do too. But you have to trust that he knows what he's doing. I think you just have to. You have to trust that he can identify coaches because he's done it every year. He's having to replace 5 different guys. So the fact that he's been very good at replacing coaches and hiring coaches, I guess in this instance, give him the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
But I understand the doubt. That was a long way of me of saying that.
Yeah.
I understand the doubt because he is older. It's taken him this long to get a Power 5 job. I do appreciate the journey. I think it's awesome. And I hope it's like an avenue for other coaches in his position because I think if you get to a certain point in college football, if you're 41 and you're still the DC at Marshall and don't have any real experience or 43, they might think, okay, you're damaged goods. Like why are you still at Marshall? Why are you at Chattanooga at this age? And you get passed by the Dillinghams of the world, these wonderkins that are 29. So I hope it works out for him, and I hope it helps other coaches get looks even after they're over 40, as saying to somebody that's over 40. But yeah, he can get the benefit of the doubt. Norvell can because of what he's done in the past and his record as a head coach. But everybody's going to doubt this hire until it's proven otherwise. Just because he's Adam Fuller. He's
We don't know who he is. He could walk into your house right now with a sign that says Adam Fuller, and you'd be like, well, I don't even know who Adam Fuller is. Like, oh, okay, you're Adam Fuller, defensive coordinator for my favorite football team.
Right. Yeah, if you walked into your house right now, folks, you would be like, what are you doing here? Yeah. Who are you? What's this? He's like, I just want to get out.
I'm here to park the car. You can park the car behind me?
Yeah, that's right. So I hope it works out, though, man. I hope it works out. And either way, they were both really impressive. I do think he has a plan. I think he has a vision and a direction on that side of the ball. And obviously, offensive line is a huge issue. But man, if Florida State turns it around, Adam Fuller will be at the forefront of that turnaround. He will be. This might be the best hire of Norvell's life. this one again. It might be. It might end up being the thing that gets him national championships.
Whoa.
No, I'm saying, or it could be something that gets him fired in 3 years. You know what I mean? If the defense doesn't improve. But there's always a chance that this guy is the real deal and just nobody saw it for a long time. I mean, it's true. I mean, I don't know how many people are scouting Chattanooga and Marshall for their, or even Memphis, for their next head coach or for the next defensive coordinator or Power 5 job. So let's hope it works out, man. The recruiting, I know he knows football, and I know he can coach football. They've got to give him players. Get him players and see what he can do with it.
By the way, Michigan State went 7-6 last season. They're currently 6-6. They'll be playing in the Pinstripe Bowl. And then Memphis had 2017, 2018. Memphis had the number 4 total offense in the nation. Both seasons, they were number 4. And Dan,
I'm pretty sure 18 they scored like 83 touchdowns.
Okay.
Which is a boatload.
What is the guy's name? What is her quarterback's name? I'm going to look it up. I can't
Look it up, Aslan. Look it up.
I can't. Did you see somebody tweeted at us? They were at a bar drinking. It was like neon lights and lasers going on. And a guy tagged us, and he was literally his buddies, and they were doing like a selfie video, like, look it up, Aslan.
Really?
Yeah, in the middle of a bar. Connor Cook.
There it is.
Connor Cook.
We all remember Connor Cook.
The great Connor Cook.
So, yeah, I think we should do at least one more show this week. Basketball team plays tonight against North Florida, who leads the nation in three-pointers made.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they average 12 a game.
Upset alert?
Well, I mean, he said that against Southern Miss, they shot 42 three-pointers and 15 two-pointers. So, yeah, I mean,
a lot of analytics guys they have on that staff.
Well, I'm telling you, man, and also when you're playing a team like Florida State, which has what it has at the rim, those North Florida kids aren't going to be coming up trying to do a bunch of layups over guys. They're going to get in the paint and kick it out. So I don't think they're going to score. I don't think they're going to take 42 threes, but they're going to take a boatload. And if they hit 50% of them, yeah, man, you can lose that game. It's 2019 college basketball.
Ask Duke, ask Kentucky.
Yeah, well, yeah, and if you give up 16 made threes, which is, I mean, that's just a little bit more than their average, yeah, you can lose. They're not good defensively, but it might not matter if they're giving up 16 threes, and they're going to put all their bodies in the paint and make Florida State shoot from the outside. So, yeah, it could be an upset. Yeah, I'd be surprised, but
is Florida State still ranked?
19th.
Look at that.
They're 19th. The men are 19th. The women are 8th.
All right.
So, Florida State football team, not ranked. But, yeah, we'll have a show for you folks. I guess.
Just subscribe. Subscribe to the podcast.
Please.
And if there's a show, it's going to be there waiting for you.
Yeah, exactly. You need to subscribe. You need to rate and review. And if you give us a 5-star rating, Aslan will send you a T-shirt.
Yeah, maybe. Also, I'm going to start saying this at the beginning of the shows. This is really important, and Gene might get mad at me for saying this without unilaterally doing this. We're probably going to phase out one of our feeds, Podbean. So if you use Podbean to listen to the show, try to start transitioning to another provider. Use SoundCloud. Use iTunes if you have an Apple device. Use Google Podcasts if you have an Android. Because it just makes sense. That's what's going to happen.
Oh, okay.
So start thinking about your backup plans. I'm not going to pull the plug like next week or 2 weeks from now, but it's probably going to be something that's going to happen here in the next 2 months or something like that. So just be prepared on that. Just want to let you folks know.
Feels like a long show.
It's way too long, but I'm going to cut about half the stuff out that you talked about.
Okay,
which
good.
I usually do.
Thankfully.
Anyways. He's Corey Maslin. Have a great day, everybody.
If you want an adventure, you could climb a mountain or ride dune buggies through the desert. Or you could just head to your neighborhood Zaxby's. Introducing the Smokehouse Cheddar Barbecue and Southwest Chipotle Filet Sandwich Meals. They're brand new and they'll take your taste buds to wild and exciting new places. Both feature our famous hand-breaded chicken, and they're both available for a limited time. Only at your neighborhood Zaxby's. And don't miss Jumanji: The Next Level, only in theaters.